today's delicious dum aloo recipe. So now here I've taken 20 baby potatoes and I've washed them really well. And now I'm going to use a peeler and peel the potatoes really well. Now if you don't get your hands on baby potatoes, you can always use small potatoes or medium sized potatoes. But this dish really comes out, perfect if you use these little baby potatoes. So now after peeling the potatoes, I'm just going to use a sharp knife. You can also use a fork and just make little incisions like this. So what this does is when we make the gravy will nicely, go into the potatoes and flavor the potatoes really well. So this is an important step. Now once that is done, I'm going to heat about 5 tablespoons of oil. And we're going to fry these potatoes till they're very nicely done, that is dark brown, golden brown in color. So keep an eye on them and just keep turning them in between till they get nicely fried. So I put a timer and this took me exactly 7 minutes to get them to this point. After that, just take them out in a separate bowl. Now I'm going to take out most of the oil from the pan and I'm just going to use a tablespoon of the oil. And now here I have 1 large onion chopped, about 10 cashew nuts, 1 inch of ginger, 6 cloves of garlic, and about 4 dried red chilies. So I'm going to add all of this to this oil. And we're going to fry this really, really well till the onions become nice and translucent. So again, this took me about 2 minutes for it to really fry nicely. So do that for about 2 minutes. And after that, once the onions soften, we're going to add 2 medium-sized tomatoes that we've chopped fine. And I'm going to fry this till the tomatoes also become nice and soft. So that took me another 2 minutes. Now we're going to turn off the heat and we're going to let this mixture completely cool down to room temperature. And then we're going to grind this without adding any water to a very, very fine paste like this. Now I'm going to add a little bit, about a tablespoon of the same oil that we used in the beginning for frying the potatoes. So a tablespoon or so. And now I'm going to add, now here we have 2 bay leaves, 1 big elaichi, 2 small elaichis, 1 inch of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of cumin or jeera, and about 10 peppercorns. So we're going to add all of these whole masalas or whole spices to the 1 tablespoon of oil. And we're going to fry this till it nicely flavors up the oil. So keep it on a very low flame. And just for about half a minute, we're going to fry them so that they nicely flavor the oil. And once that is done, we're going to add our paste that we ground to the whole spices that we fried. And we're going to mix this in really, really well. So we're going to fry this masala or this paste for about half a minute with the whole spices. Now I'm going to add half a teaspoon of turmeric powder or haldi powder, 1 teaspoon of red chili powder. Mix it in well. Now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of coriander powder or dhania powder, half a teaspoon of cumin powder or jeera powder, 2 teaspoons of Kashmiri red chili powder for the color, and 1 teaspoon of dry mango powder or amchur powder. So mix all of this really well together. Keep your flame on very low because we're adding powder spices. So mix all of this really nicely together. The flavor, the aroma in my kitchen is just amazing with all these beautiful Indian spices. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cover this and keep it aside for about 5 minutes on a very low flame till all of the masala gets nicely fried. And now I'm going to add 1 green chili that I've chopped fine. So keep stirring in between when you cover and keep it for 5 minutes. And now you can see that there's some oil oozing out of this masala. Now I'm going to add 1.5 cup of water. Now what I did is the mixer jar in which I ground the masala, I added 1.5 cup water to that, rinsed out all the masala, and I'm going to use that water itself. So now mix it in really well. If you want it a little thinner, then you can add a little more water. See, about a 1/4 cup of water more. And mix all of this really nicely together. And now I'm going to add some salt to taste. And now we're going to add our fried potatoes back into the curry or the gravy. Mix everything in well. And now you're going to cover and keep this for 15 minutes on a very low flame, stirring in between. And after 15 minutes, you'll see that it has nicely thickened and the masalas have all come together very well. The potatoes are nicely coated with the masala. So now I'm just going to add 1/2 teaspoon of homemade garam masala. I leave a link to the recipe of how I make my garam masala at home. Mix all of this well together. You see how the curry has nicely thickened up. I just can't wait to dig into this. And then I'm going to turn off the flame and I'm just going to add some lovely fresh coriander leaves that I've chopped as a garnish. And we're going to mix in the coriander leaves too. And that's it, guys. Your lovely dum aloo recipe is all ready to enjoy. Now, I love having this with some naan. And of course, I'm going to add just 1/2 teaspoon of clarified butter and ghee at the end. And then we're just going to cover and keep it aside for about a minute or two. And that really flavors and elevates the flavor of this beautiful dish. So have this with naan or roti or, puris or chapatis. It's just fabulous. So friends, let's take today's lovely recipe of bhatures. So now here I've taken 1/4 cup of suji rava or semolina. Now I like to use the fine semolina, but if you have the medium or the thick one, then you can just grind it to a fine consistency. Next I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, that is regular sugar. Next I'm going to be adding 1/4 of a cup of dahi or yogurt or curd. And now using the spoon, I'm just going to mix everything really well together. So see that the dahi and the salt, the sugar and the semolina really mix well together. Take your time with it. And now after mixing this, we're just going to leave this aside for about 2 or 3 minutes. Now after 2 or 3 minutes, again, I'm just going to mix it up all together once again. And now I'm going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. If you don't have baking soda, you can use 1 teaspoon of Eno fruit salts. And again, just whisk this or just mix it together with the spoon really well. Because now we want the baking soda to, mix up with all the other ingredients, and that will give us some really lovely puffed up and light bhatures. So once you've mixed all of this, we're just going to add in 1/4 cup of plain flour or maida. And again, mix the maida with all of the other ingredients really well. And I'm just going to add a little water at a time, and we're going to make a nice soft dough. Something very similar to how you would make for, puris or puris. So just add a little water at a time. I think I used about 5 or 6 tablespoons. That's it. Don't put too much water at a time. Just start with a little water and work your way through. So these bhatures go really well with some chana masala or chole, So I'll leave my recipe of how I make my chana masala in the description box below. It's a super simple recipe. And just squeeze some lemon on the chole and some lovely onion at the side and these bhaturas, and it's an entire meal and it tastes really really amazing. So now my dough is ready, as you can see. So just knead it really well. Take your time with it. Take about 5 minutes, but knead the dough really really well. We want a nice soft and flexible dough. And now I'm just going to add a few drops of oil and again knead it. And then we're just going to cover this and set it aside for about 2 hours. That's very important because we want this dough to really form well so that we get the perfect bhaturas. So now after waiting for 2 hours, our dough is all ready to work with. So now I'm just going to make some even sized balls with the dough. Now roll the balls between the palm of your hands and get a very smooth ball. That is, it should not have any creases or lines on it. So take your time and just roll it really, really well. Now I've also heated up some oil, about 1.5 cup of oil for deep frying these bhaturas. Now we're just going to roll this out to a flat roti size or a small fulka, and we need to have at least half an inch of thickness. We don't want it to be very thin but a little thick, so half an inch of thickness. And roll the edges rather than rolling it in the middle. And now all you have to do is just very gently put it down into the hot oil. See that your oil is really hot, but keep your flame between low and medium. And now just put some oil, with the spoon or the ladle, just toss some oil onto the top of the bhatura, and you will see that it starts to fluff up. Once it starts to fluff up on one side, then you just turn it onto the other side and repeat the same process. Don't keep it too long in the oil. It just has to have a very light golden brown color. And once that is done, just drain off the excess oil onto your ladle or spoon. That is a perforated spoon. And now all you have to do is just transfer it onto a plate. And one tip, of course, here is that you have to serve this, right away or within at least 5 or 10 minutes with the lovely chole. That way they remain lovely and soft and yummy. And this is the other one. So with the quantity that I've given in my recipe, I got 5 bhatures. So if you want more, then you can just double the quantity of all the ingredients. So I'll show you what thickness we're looking for. So like this, it should be about half an inch of thickness. And be very careful with the hot oil. So lower it very carefully into the oil. And just press a little on the top, and then you'll see that it starts to immediately puff up like this. So guys, do give this recipe a try and let me know how your bhatura is turned out, and serve this with some lovely chana masala or Start with today's easy bread pudding recipe. So let me take you through the ingredients. Now for the caramel syrup, I've taken 4 tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. Here I have 2 eggs. This is 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. This is about half a cup of powdered sugar. These are about 8 slices of bread that I've just made into a fine powder in my mixer. Now I'm going to be using a steamer today to make this, and I also require 1.5 cup of milk. So first we're going to make the caramel. Now for the caramel, I've just taken a saucepan, preferably a non-stick saucepan. I've just added my sugar and my water, given it just one mix, and then I've just let the sugar and the water dissolve. You don't need to stir after this. Keep it on a low to medium flame. and you will see that the sugar just starts to caramelize and turn into this beautiful dark golden brown color. Just keep an eye on it though, but don't stir it. And the minute you see the edges of the syrup starting to become golden brown, then you just give it a shake just move the vessel and stir it just a bit, and then just put it into this dish into which you're going to make the caramel. And then what I like to do is I like to just to get an even get it evenly spread, I just put it on my gas flame and let it melt so that it evenly coats the base of the dish in which I'm going to make it. Now I'm just going to beat the eggs in a large bowl. I'm going to add my vanilla essence, give that a good mix. Then I'm going to add my powdered sugar. I've just taken regular sugar, put it into my mixer or blender and just given it a blitz. See that everything is well mixed together. Now I've used slices of bread. You can also use pav that's available. Now just add the milk and again give it a mix. Now you can tear up the bread or the pav with your fingers and make it into a very fine into crumbly form. But what I like to do is I like to put it into my mixer and give it a blitz. That way you get a very even and smooth texture and you don't get lumps of bread in the pudding. So now I'm just going to add this, and I've used brown bread. You can use white bread. Generally at our place we like to have whole wheat brown bread, so I've just taken the slices. You can even use leftover bread also, and then just give everything a very, very good mix. Now our caramel has already set into the dish. I've just used a regular baking dish. So you can see that it's actually solidified. So now I'm just going to pour my mixture over the caramel. And now I've already kept my steamer for boiling. I've just put the dish into the steamer and I've covered it with a lid. I've closed up my steamer and I'm going to cook this on a high flame for 15 minutes. I've actually kept my timer on and I'm going to cook it for 15 minutes. And then I'm going to let the steamer completely cool down. So I can, it's becomes cool enough that I can handle, I can touch the steamer. And then I'm just going to check on the bread pudding. I'm just going to take a knife, insert it, and when it comes out clean, I know my pudding is done. Now I have to transfer this to my refrigerator and let it completely cool down for about 2 to 3 hours. So I'm again going to cover it and put it into my refrigerator for 2 to 3 hours before I demold it. And now we're ready to demold it. So I've just taken a knife and just run it through the edges. And then I'm just going to put my plate on top of it and invert it. Then I'm just going to tap on it gently till you can actually feel that the pudding has, loosened up from the dish. And you can just demold it. And you can see the pan has also come out quite clean. And I've just transferred it to a clean plate. And I just poured whatever little caramel was there in the side of the other plate onto the top of this. And I can, you can cut it up immediately, or you can even, chill it further and then cut it up. And then you get this beautiful slices of bread pudding.